Okay, introduce yourself for those who might not know who you are.
Delta 2
Okay.
artist from New York City.
Okay, what area or borough are you raised in?
Spanish Harlem, Manhattan.
Um, what was it like growing up in Spanish Harlem as a kid? How was your childhood?
It was great. Sports, music, going outside, playing with your friends, riding bikes, Central Park, things like that.
Okay. When did you start noticing the writing on the walls?
Like, I would say 75, 75, because I was playing sports a lot. And then I started seeing, traveling to other families on the train.
Okay, who were some of the guys you remember being up before you started writing?
Older guys, I would say Blade, Lee, old timers, Zero, that they big murals on the trains and on walls.
Okay, seeing that, is that what sparked you to start writing, or was it something else?
No, just in general, of being an artist when I was a kid, and I kept seeing that, and I said I could figure doing it the same thing, but it's different because with spray can, it's not the same with a pencil or a pen.
Okay, how did you get involved with graffiti? Was you already doing art?
Yeah, I was already drawing a lot and just getting on the train and seeing it on the outside, not the inside.
So was it a process, or was it just out there in the open and you just picked up and started? Like, who was your like who was your partners when you first started writing?
Well, at the beginning is trial and error, because everybody starts, not that great, you know what I'm saying? And when you go to school, that's when it really happens. If you're going to school, you see other writers. And I used to go to school with Mac and Dez, you know, and Jackie Robinson. And we used to see a lot in books and on the, black books. That's how I started writing, by looking. Not using their style at all, but just seeing what they do.
Okay, so when you start off, you have to have a name. So how did you get your name?
Well, when we went to school on a trip, we went to the Met and we see King Tut. And when I seen the north of Egypt, when the gods were actually put up to rest, it was up in the north, which is the delta on that side. And I seen the name. The name would just talk to me, and that was it.
Okay, so what year did you start writing?
Actually, writing that name was 79, 78, 79. Writing, actually, on the top of the roof of my grandmother, and in the hallways of school, projects, stuff like that. But that's tagging. Wasn't like the art.
Okay, so you go pick up your paint. Was you racking the paint, or how were you obtaining the paint at this time?
Oh, you had to rack. That's part of the life of a graffiti artist. You must rack. Then in the future, when you're doing good and you didn't want to take a risk, and certain colors you couldn't take. So the ones that I would take would just be to do top to bottoms with 2 colors or 3 colors. And once the colors is for fresh colors would be to burners on the outside. So sometimes, yes, in the future, in my future, I will have to buy a few cans because I couldn't steal.
Okay, who was the first person you met and when you started writing?
Well, I would say Daz was writing before me, because me and Mac and Chevy, we started at the same time, and Dar and Speedy and Brooklyn, we started at the same time. But one that I seen that was already in it was Daz in school.
Okay, so did you have any mentors to take you on your wing, or did you go at it solo?
Yeah, went solo, trial and error, practicing, dressing the letters.
Do you remember the first line you hit, and what was it like painting your first piece?
6 train. The second one was the J train in Brooklyn. And I remember the piece I did came out horrible.
Okay. I assume you was in high school at this point. So what high school did you go to, and who are some of the writers that went to the school?
Richmond. Richmond. And then before that was Jackie Robinson. That was with Dez, Mac, Dar, a few other artists. But they didn't ever accomplish to do nothing,
Okay. So what crews have you been down with?
Quite a few, but not a lot. If you get to, if that makes any sense. TDS, OTB, KD, TED, SYB, TRC, Crusaders, NWA.
Okay, so you're the founder of the crew King's Arrival. So tell us how the crew was formed and who are some of the members of the crew.
Well, when we first writing, Sharp, my partner, on the trains, started going over people and started putting King. And I said, we can't keep putting King yet. We're just catching up. We just started. So I said, when we finish, or when we get to the yard or to the outside of a train, we put King's Arrive or King's Amaze, and we take it from there. I would never put King Delta or King this, King that. Didn't like that. You let your peers call you that by your work.
That's a good point. What do you remember what year it was formed?
81.
Did you ever go to the bench at 149 Street? And if so, who are the artists you would always see there?
Many times at the Concords, I would meet and see the Vamp Squad, Nico and Lust, the original Lust, just taking people's books and paint, stuff like that. And I see Case One, G-Man all the time, original hardcore graffiti artists.
Okay, any stories from the time at the bench?
At the bench? No, we just seen a lot of guys getting robbed, and when you see pieces that roll up in your face from Brooklyn that rolls up on you, that Don These did his piece on the 2 train, and that rolled up and smacked everybody in the face. And Mitch, 77, those are big dogs, and Lee will hit you up when you see it. That's what gave me more time to think about what to do on the outside of the train, because that's where the big dogs did murals on the outside, whole cars.
Okay, speaking of rob, I read in an interview you almost got robbed there, and is that true? And why did that almost happen?
At the bench?
Yes.
I don't know if I ever said that, and I don't think I ever did. Everybody's been tried that. I doubt. But I never been robbed. Nowhere.
Okay. So what lines did you write on?
At the beginning was the 6 train, and then the 4 train when I moved from the 6 because of haters.
What was your biggest rivalry or competition you had on the subway back then?
Was the 6 train. It was called a crew, which is another extension of UA, was just called a UBA, which were, a bunch of toys that followed him because we kept doing pieces.
What does UBA stand for?
I believe it was United Artists Bombers. I don't know. I never looked. I know the guys that did it,
Okay.
and they kept going over us for Scene because Scene stopped. He was tired of burning the buff machine. Was tired of wasting paint, and was just tired of it, And then they were telling him, there's some new guys that are going crazy on your line. because it was. So he didn't like it, but didn't even pay no mind to that. Actually, the toys that followed him started going over us. That's why we moved to the number 4.
Okay. What was your peak years on the subway?
82, 83, 84. That's when I went crazy on the 6 to 4, and then went all city, which means IRTs, BMTs, everything. All lines.
Did you king any lines? If so, what lines, and like, can you remember the year?
I believe towards the end and the beginning of 83, they say, was the 4 train. And after that, Coke 2 came after, or started piecing when we were just, going other lines. But they say it, not me. That's why I tell you that I wouldn't claim myself as king until others say, yeah, these guys did a lot of trains and they kinged this line. Some people put king because they did 20 trains and nobody else did trains. So obviously they're the only ones up there,
Okay, you mentioned the 6. By painting on the 6, did you ever lead to any beef with any other writers? If so, can you tell us about the situation and who was involved? Or was that the same situation with the UA?
Yeah, we had a beef, not at the 6. It was at Bedford Yard where they tried to rob us and Sharp took off and I was stuck with 2 bags of paint, and I had to fight with the cans. And I wound up losing like 10, but came home with the cans and gave it to Sharp and said, this is what you do when you're a writer.
Okay, tell us your favorite raid or chase story. I'm sure you have a few.
Well, yeah, to tell you the truth, we go back to that. I had no really beef because I made it my business not to go over people, But at one time, RTW was chasing Dez at Dez Interior, and so many guys from the club chasing us. G-Man was there, but he couldn't run, and he wasn't gonna run anyway. PGA, he just stood his ground, and since Dez took off, I wouldn't leave him alone. I ran with him, and in the one in the yard itself, where me and Coke went to the 40 yard, and when we started to check what trains we were gonna do the big piece, all of a sudden, Cap and the rest of his crew came, and he rolled up on us. Thought it was a setup. I found out it wasn't. He wanted to beat up Sharp. We wound up doing a couple of things, just testing, doing a couple of throws to go to do the whole car, and all of a sudden it was rage, like I never seen before. And they chased us, and they walked out the yard, and in the next week, me and Sharp got raided, and we couldn't escape. So our chance was to run and jump on a train, or to stop on a platform. It's like a train of like cowboys. And when it stopped, we came to the middle of the train and jumped in, with the train packed, while the cops were all over the place looking for us. And we sat in the train, looked like we blended in with everybody, while they came walking by looking for us. And that's how we escaped from that raid.
Okay. All right. You painted on the 1 line as well. What was it like painting on the 1, and what was your favorite car you pulled off?
The 1 train, Broadway, was the place where you show your stuff, A lot of good writers painted there, and they did their thing. And when the whole car did, most of the cars that I did was by myself. Even if I'm with you or somebody else, you either watched or you filled in, and that's it, and keep looking out. So there was 1 train that I did once upon a time in America. It was a whole car with a gangster character with the hat pointing, and I did a Delta and Joey, the Death Squad, with a Uzi character, and that was on Broadway. That was one of my best whole car that I did on the one train. And we did a lot of trains there. Actually, I did.
All right. The one line was notorious for running into the BALLBUSTERS. Did you ever have any encounter with them? And if so, can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, many times I ran into them. Many times. But towards the end of it, we had a little luck by not running into them. But then we did. For some reason, they never tried me at all. At the first time they did rolled up with the shotguns and asked me, "What you write and give us all your paint?" I said, "I'm not giving you no paint, but I write Delta." They were more intrigued about your Delta, so take a tag so we could know that it's really you. So I took a tag and they just left me alone and still asked me for paint. Cause they just was robbing people left and right. But I went there after that with Joey. I even took Phase 2 there, and Phase brung a gun with him just in case. And we still played. We came off real nice and everything was cool. They just respected guys that respected them. If we were cocky and pop shit, they're gonna rob you and they're gonna do it. And that was it.
Okay. So some of your partners included Part and Swan. How did you meet them?
Part and Swan. Well, I did a lot of things with Part besides painting on the trains because he's from my neighborhood and he's older than me. So it was like a mentor type thing at the end for information, telling me the truth about who's who and who started and when he started painting, which I didn't know was 74. And we wasn't partners and we didn't do a lot of trains, but we did a few. And Swan, it depends because there's one Swan that went to school with me, then there was another Swan 3, and none of them were my partners. I never did a train with Swan 3. Some people say that, and that's the guy from the 3 yard that painted there. Nothing to take away from him, but no, I never did not even one car with him.
Did you have a favorite car that you painted with Part?
With Part, yeah, there was a Special Gadget on the 2 and the 5s that we did in 103rd tunnels that we painted in our neighborhood. That weekend we did like three whole cars, me and him.
Okay. I read that you also used to paint with Mac. What was it like painting with Mac, and how did you guys meet?
Well, we used to go to school together, and at that point, Mac didn't speak very well English, and didn't know a lot about what was going on, but he had style, writing, and nobody knows that we never did a piece, and that was funny because we did motion on the 6 train and took over just motioning because we had the fever. Didn't care. Really, he didn't give a fuck. He didn't care who was there, even in front of cops. He was writing and trying to be slick. And I would tell him, "Dude, you're gonna get us busted, bro," which we did at one time. We tried to run, both of us, and we got chased and got caught. That's when I slowed down with the motioning, because every train that rolled up, we had a tag on it. So I kept saying to him, "We need to do paintings on the outside instead of tagging. They respect more for piecing outside." But towards the future, Sharp found me and wanted to do pieces. And then Matt kept writing, and then met T-Kid and Brim, and they started doing pieces. But it was Mac that I first started going crazy in the inside.
Okay. What was the best car you and Mac pulled off, and where did y'all paint it?
Didn't do no cars with Mac. We just did pieces on the train. I mean, tagging on the insides, the 6.
Okay, you eventually moved to doing work in galleries. What was your early gallery experience like?
Well, with Fun Gallery with Sharp, It was a group show where everybody showed up to do a piece, and that was we got in because we was up on the trains, and our name was everywhere. And Patty Astor said, "You guys are the ones that are up right now. So sure, give us some canvases, and I'll put the canvases up for you to do a show." It's a fun gallery.
Okay. Do you prefer painting on canvas or on trains?
Well, on the trains, but you can't paint on trains no more. So canvas is my thing, you know.
All right. You painted in 2005 at the Graffiti Hall of Fame, and it had like a gallery style background. Do you have any favorite memories of that piece?
Actually, that year was my idea to make it seem like it was a gallery on the wall, because they were stuck on what theme would be. And I told them to make it look like it's a gallery, you know, like it's the walls with paintings on the wall, and then on the bottom will be like our pieces, but like sculptures that on the wall, on the floor, inside the galleries. And they said, "Oh, that's a good idea." I said, "Well, let's go." That was, to me, was the best wall that we did. That was different than any walls that they done.
Actually was a pretty dope wall.
Yeah, it's the
Still
only
memorable
one.
to this day. Okay, this is what I call 7 Deadly Sins. Scheme hates that name, by the way.
Okay.
It's where I asked you to pick 2 artists, like if they was to battle, who you think would win. So first off, we have Sim 2 versus Dove.
Say it again.
Sim 2 versus Doves.
Doves?
Yes.
Doves. Doves will win,
Okay.
to me.
Next up, we got STEM versus Serve in a Black Book battle.
Serve.
Serve?
Because
Okay.
he pieces. Stem is a bomber. He's a destroyer. He don't pieces like that.
Okay, next we got Flight versus Days.
I would say Days.
Days. Okay, the next battle we have Ghost versus Sintu from TFP.
Ghosts.
Okay, next battling is Butch 2 versus Knock.
Knock.
Knock. Okay, the next battle we're gonna have Slave versus Band 2.
Slave, you said?
Yes.
Slave.
Okay, last but not least, we're gonna have Scene UA versus Crash.
Scene. And I said that was Slave and Band. Because Band doesn't do pieces like Super Wildstar. He's a good artist. But he's a king bomber of the insides. Band too.
All right, well, that was the end of the interview. I want to thank you for your time, and I appreciate this. Delta 2 people,
No problems, man.
peace.
Keep styling.